I hadn't planned to check the intercom feed. It was late. I'd been in bed already, the weight of the week still buzzing behind my eyes like static. But there was a ping on my phone, a notification from the building's security app. One of those passive alerts you normally ignore. Motion detected, entryway camera 1. Timestamped 11:17 p.m. I stared at it for a moment. She was supposed to be out with her sister. A wine night, she'd said. It'll probably go late, she'd added, slipping her earrings in, not quite meeting my eyes. You'll be asleep before I get back. She'd smiled when she said it, that quick, breezy smile she's good at, the one that closes a door before you can step through it. I tapped into the feed. The screen lit up, a grainy frame frozen on our front stoop. Then it jumped, a figure entering the frame. Her. My wife. Getting out of a car. But not her car. The angle was terrible, low and slightly off to the side, but unmistakable. I could see the slant of her shoulder, the coat she always said made her feel grown up, her purse clutched tightly under one arm like she was nervous. I rewound the clip, watched her again. She got out of the passenger side. That alone was odd. Her sister's place was 15 minutes across town. She wouldn't need a ride. And even if she did, why not her own car? She was always hyper-independent about that, even annoyed when I offered to drive her places. I hit pause. The window was rolled down, and inside someone waved. It was just a hand at first, then a vague, backlit shape leaning over the console. A cap pulled low. I zoomed in, but the pixels broke apart. Still, there was something about the silhouette. Not quite a stranger. Not entirely unknown, either. I stared at the cap. That flat brim, that faded charcoal gray. I'd seen that exact one once before, on a stupid spring night 6 months ago. Backyard fire pit, cheap beer, laughter echoing off damp wood fencing. That same cap. That same friend. Brian. I hadn't thought of them in months. He used to come around more. Sunday games, poker nights, those easy group dinners with just enough wine to make everyone loose and stupid. But somewhere along the way, he'd stopped showing up. Drifted out. Or maybe I'd stopped inviting him. I can't remember now. I played the clip again. Slower. She steps out. Leans down briefly, maybe says something to him. The camera doesn't catch her face. Just the slope of her neck, the way her hair falls as she leans in. Then she closes the door behind her and walks up to the building entrance. No kiss. No hug. Just a pause. A second too long, like she was waiting for him to say something, or hoping he wouldn't. Then she disappears into the stairwell. The clip ends. I sat there in the dark, holding my phone like it might burn through my hand. The light from the screen casting long shadows against the ceiling. She wasn't home yet. Said she was staying late. But she was 3 floors above me now, maybe slipping off her shoes. Maybe texting someone. Not her sister. I opened our texts. Nothing new. I scrolled back. Tell your sister I said hi. I'd written that around 8:30 p.m. No reply. And suddenly I couldn't breathe right. It wasn't just the footage. It was everything that came before it, tiny, quiet things. Details I hadn't noticed until they stacked on top of each other. The way she'd started locking her phone. The way she tilted the screen when I walked by. The sudden, pointless arguments that ended in silence instead of resolution. The absences that didn't feel accidental. She used to tell me things. The dumb, boring things couples tell each other. About her day. Her coworkers. The annoying way her boss chewed gum. Now it was surface talk. Weather. Groceries. Passive affection. Noise. I closed the app and stared at my reflection in the black screen. I looked tired. Not just physically, but something deeper. Worn down in a way I hadn't noticed before. The kind of tired that comes from trying to ignore what your gut's been screaming for weeks. I walked to the window, looked down at the empty street. The car was gone. If it was Brian's, he didn't linger. The funny thing is, I wasn't even angry yet. Not really. I just felt cold. like someone had opened a door inside me I hadn't realized was there. And behind it, nothing. When I heard the soft sound of the door unlocking, I didn't move. I stayed by the window, listening to the rustle of her coat, the clink of her keys in the dish, the way she padded barefoot across the kitchen tiles. I could already hear the life forming in her voice. "Hey, babe," she said, casual and sweet, like nothing had changed. But it had. I turned around slowly. She smiled, kissed my cheek. "Wine night ran late. Sorry I didn't text." I looked at her. Really looked. And I knew. She wasn't just lying. She'd been lying for a long time. She never mentioned the car. Not that night, not the next morning. She poured her coffee, asked if I needed eggs, told me something shallow about her sister's new Pilates instructor. The kind of story meant to sound intimate, but told like filler. I nodded through it. Watched her lips move. Noticed how carefully she avoided looking directly at me. I should have asked. Should have come right out with it. "Who was driving you last night?" But I didn't. I told myself I needed more. One video wasn't enough. Not yet. Instead, I waited for her to leave. Then I went back to the footage. The building's intercom system stores 10 days' worth of clips, triggered only by motion at the front entrance. I started scrolling backward, then forward, watching the banal comings and goings of neighbors, delivery drivers, food drop-offs. The everyday hum of lives moving in and out of frame. But then Thursday, 9:13 p.m. There she was again. Same coat, same purse. Exiting the building this time. Her expression was hard to read, washed out by the floodlight above the door. She walked briskly. No pause. The same car pulled up. Passenger side door swings open before she even reaches the curb. She doesn't hesitate. Just gets in. The car pulls away. Out of frame. I leaned in, pausing at the exact moment she opened the door. Tried to catch his face. But it was always shadowed. That cap again. That damned cap. I checked the date. Thursday. She told me she'd had a late meeting that night. Came home around 10, mumbling something about the project being behind schedule. Tired eyes. Heavy sighs. She'd poured a glass of wine, curled up on the couch, and let me rub her feet. I felt sick. I played it again. Over and over. And every time, it got harder to pretend. This wasn't a one-time ride. This was familiar, coordinated, comfortable, routine. By the third playback, I noticed something else. The way she looked over her shoulder as she stepped off the curb. Not toward the camera. She couldn't have known it was there, but almost instinctively. Like she was scanning for witnesses. And that smile. Just before she opened the door. Small, but real. Not the fake social one she used at work or with neighbors. This was the kind of smile you wear when you see someone you've been craving all day. I sat back in the chair, the room spinning slightly. It's strange how you can feel your own mind shifting. Like the floor inside your skull just tilts a little and nothing quite fits the way it used to. I thought about Brian again. It didn't make sense. He was a friend, yes, but not a close one. Not anymore. We'd grown apart. He was one of those guys who coasted on charm and bad timing, always broke, always full of ideas, always showing up with stories that didn't add up. But he was harmless. At least I thought he was. Until now. I scrolled through more footage. Monday. Nothing. Tuesday. Nothing. Then Friday. 9:42 p.m. She comes home in a rideshare. At least, it looked like one. Not the same car. A different model, dark SUV, plates unreadable. She exits. Alone. Fumbles with her bag. Looks tired. And yet, I notice the smile again. Not quite the same, but still there. That quiet curve of the mouth. I checked our text from that night. Her, going to stay late at the office, don't wait up Bret Hart. I remember reading it on the couch, thinking how responsible she was. Thinking how lucky I was to have someone so driven. Now I saw it differently. There was a pattern forming. A rhythm beneath the normalcy. The kind you only see when you stop trusting the music and start listening to the silences. I didn't sleep much that night. Just lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering what she'd look like if I confronted her. If she'd deny it, laugh, cry, or just lie better. By Saturday, I'd started looking at everything differently. She left her laptop open on the table, something she never did before. I walked past it 3 times before I finally sat down. No password prompt, just a glowing desktop. I didn't want to go through it. Not really. Some part of me was still hoping this was all a misunderstanding, that the footage was nothing, that I was spiraling over shadows. But I clicked open the browser anyway. The first tab was a shopping site, leggings. Normal. The second, an article on emotional burnout. A self-help piece about finding joy in transition. Odd, but still within range. The third was her email. I hesitated, then clicked. It was clean, almost too clean. No personal emails, no receipts, no newsletters. Like someone had wiped it, or started over. But there was one draft, untitled. I opened it, and there it was. Not a letter, just a list. 2 columns. On the left, cities. On the right, dates. Boston, March 9th. Chicago, March 23rd. Denver, April 6th. I stared at it, heart thudding in my ears. There was no explanation, no header, no context, just a list. And one entry stood out. Baltimore, May 3rd. Today. She wasn't supposed to travel. Not for another 2 weeks. She'd told me that over dinner just 3 nights ago. Everything's local for a while, she'd said, sipping wine. I get to breathe again. But now, here was this date, this city, this silence. I closed the laptop and sat back, staring at nothing. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. When she came home that night, I watched her unlock the door, hang up her coat, and smile at me from across the room like she hadn't just spent the day lying to my face. And something broke a little further inside me. I didn't mention the draft. Not when she crawled into bed that night. Not when she curled herself into me like she still had the right. Her skin was warm, her breath slow. She sighed as she fell asleep, and I lay there with my eyes wide open, heart refusing to settle. Baltimore, May 3rd. That was today. But she never left the apartment. Or maybe she did, just not by plane. Maybe the list wasn't about work. Maybe it wasn't about anything she planned to tell me. I started checking her calendar, the little one she kept magnetized to the fridge. There were events written there, sure. Work meetings, a wedding shower, some charity event with her boss. But they didn't line up with the cities. None of them. I turned the page to June. Blank. I turned back. Still nothing. I stared at the word Denver until it lost all meaning. Later that night, when she was asleep, I went to the hallway closet, pulled out her travel bag, the one she always used for short trips, black, beat up at the corners, TSA tags still looped around the handle from a flight last year. She hadn't packed it, but inside, folded at the bottom, was an envelope. I held it for a long time before I opened it. No address, no return name, just $500 in 20s. Crisp, new, and a key. I turned it over in my hand. Long, thin, brass. Looked like it belonged to a storage unit or a padlock, maybe. But it wasn't one of ours. I'd never seen it before. And it was hidden, buried like something that mattered. I placed it back exactly how I found it. Something had shifted in me by then. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was watching, like a man on the edge of a frozen lake, testing each footstep before trusting the ice. She was slipping, slowly. The lies weren't coordinated anymore. They didn't match up the way they used to. They unraveled in the small, stupid ways. How she said she'd gone to Whole Foods but came back with groceries that didn't match the receipt. How she mentioned her sister's cat dying, then corrected herself, dog. How she answered a call on speaker, but muted it halfway through and took it to the balcony, face tight, voice sweet. I started noticing times. 8:14 p.m. She leaves for yoga. 9:03 p.m. She texts me still at the studio, but the studio closes at 8:30. 9:47 p.m. Intercom feed shows her returning. On foot. No mat. No gym bag. Just her and that small, tired smile. I became a shadow in my own apartment. One night she left her phone on the charger while she showered. I walked past it, paused, stood there, staring at the screen, locked and silent. Her passcode had changed. I hadn't noticed when. The next day, I started checking Brian's socials. He'd gone private months ago. One of those cryptic bios with nothing but an emoji and a quote. But his Spotify activity was public. And in between playlists and weird late-night listens, I noticed something strange. A collaborative playlist. 2 contributors. Her username was right there. Some old in-joke we used to share, now repurposed. Her music was all moody instrumentals and early 2000s pop. His was loud, messy, the kind of music you'd play in a car, speeding toward nowhere. But buried between them, a song I recognized. One she played the night we met. At that dingy dive bar, back when her laugh made my chest ache. Maps by Yeah Yeah Yes. The lyrics hit different now. Wait, they don't love you like I love you. I closed the app. The next day, I asked about Brian. Casually. Over breakfast. Between toast and the sound of the kettle. Hey, whatever happened to him? I asked. Brian. He dropped off the grid. She didn't flinch. Didn't pause. Haven't seen him in forever, she said, buttering her bread. You know how he is. Vanishes. Comes back. I nodded. Took a sip of coffee. Didn't he used to wear that ugly cap? The gray one. She smiled. Yeah, he loved that thing. Looked like trash. But she didn't ask why I brought him up. She didn't say, what made you think of him? Which told me something. She was ready for that question. She had an answer prepped. That afternoon I checked her car. She was in the bath. Her phone left behind again. Charging. I took her keys, walked down to the garage, unlocked the driver's side. There was nothing obvious. No receipts. No bags. No signs of a secret life. But when I sat in the driver's seat, something strange happened. My phone connected to the Bluetooth, which meant hers hadn't, which meant she hadn't used it. Not for music. Not for calls. Not in weeks. I checked the drive log. The console still had her route history. Most recent trip? 2 weeks ago. A grocery store we hadn't been to in months. She hadn't been driving. She was being driven. I locked the car and returned to the apartment. The water was still running. She was humming to herself, something tuneless and light. I stared at the bathroom door, at the small crack of steam leaking through. And I realized, with perfect clarity, that I didn't know who she was anymore. That whoever I married, that girl with the music and the crooked smile and the laugh that used to stop me mid-sentence, she wasn't here. She was somewhere else, with someone else, and I needed to know exactly where. It started with the cap. I couldn't stop thinking about it. That dull charcoal gray, the curved bill, the worn logo you could barely make out on the front. I remembered the night he left it behind, Brian, after one of those long evenings of cheap whiskey and slower conversations. He'd crashed on our couch. I'd made him coffee in the morning, and the cap had been there, tossed on the kitchen counter. She'd touched it as she passed. Just briefly. Barely a second. But I remember it now. The way her fingers lingered on the fabric like it meant something. Back then, it didn't register. Now it won't leave my head. I started searching photos. Old group shots. Casual hangouts. That 4th of July barbecue 2 years ago. There he was, cap on backward, arms slung around someone else, eyes glassy from beer and smoke. But always close to her. Too close, in hindsight. I found one photo that stopped me cold. Her birthday, last year. We were at a restaurant downtown. Big round table. Cake, candles, the whole thing. She was leaning in to blow them out, grinning. Brian was behind her. Not next to her. Not even talking to her. Just watching. Eyes fixed on her, face unreadable. Like he was already imagining a world that didn't include me. I closed the photo app. I needed answers, and I was running out of places to look. Her phone was locked. Her emails were scrubbed. Her face, when she smiled at me now, was perfect. Too perfect. But everyone leaves something behind. I went back to the envelope. The one in her travel bag. The one with the key. I took it out again. Weighted in my palm. Then I remembered something. The week before, I'd helped her carry boxes to her car. Donation stuff, she said. Old clothes. She'd loaded them herself. Refused my help. But I remembered the logo on the side of one of the boxes. Redlock storage. 20 minutes away. Nondescript. Beige signage. I'd driven past it a dozen times without noticing. Now I couldn't stop thinking about it. That weekend, she said she was meeting her sister again. A brunch turned spa day, which meant 6 hours of silence and plausible deniability. As soon as she left, I grabbed the key and drove. The place was half deserted. Rows of orange roll-up doors. He'd shimmered off the concrete. I told the guy at the front desk I was checking on my unit. He barely looked up, just waved me through. The key fit the third door I tried. It clicked. Clean. Smooth. I rolled it up slowly, heart pounding in my throat. Inside was a single chair. A metal folding chair. In the center, facing the wall. And beside it, stacked neatly, 2 boxes. Unmarked. Nothing else. No furniture. No storage. No evidence of a second life. Just those boxes. That chair. And a single framed photo, turned face down on top. I picked it up. It was us. Me and her, from our honeymoon. Standing in front of a cathedral, sun in our eyes, arms around each other. But something was different. The glass was cracked. A single fracture across my face. I opened the first box. Inside, notebooks. Her handwriting. I recognized it immediately. Pages and pages, but not journaling. It was more precise. Dated. Labeled. July 14th. Brian dropped off the gift at 4:23 p.m. July 27th. Test complete. No resistance. Played along. August 3rd. Phone unlocked at 2:12 a.m. relocked at 2:16. Contents verified. Screenshots stored in secondary account. I froze. This wasn't personal writing. It was documentation. Surveillance. I flipped to another page. Mid-September. He suspects something. Intercom footage? Possible breach. Maintain warmth. Do not overcorrect. My hands started shaking. Another page. October 12th. Brian asked again if I'm sure. He doesn't understand what's at stake. Told him to trust me. Then underlined. Do not let him get to the envelope. I backed away. My breath shallow. My mind unraveling. This wasn't just an affair. It was a plan. A controlled operation. And I wasn't the one in control. The second box held tech. An old phone. SIM cards. A burner, still powered off. A USB drive labeled in tiny block print. House. I didn't touch it. Not yet. I felt like I'd already crossed a line. But something had to make sense. Some reason. Then I saw it, another page, tucked into the back of one notebook, like it didn't belong. He used to watch me in his sleep. Like I was fragile. Now I feel like the ghost in the room. He touches me like I'm not there. Like he's somewhere else. And beneath that, if this goes wrong, it all comes down. He can't know who I really am. Who I really am. I stood there, the heat pressing in from all sides, a buzzing in my ears. Who was she? I thought about calling the police. But what would I say? My wife might be. What? Lying? Planning something? Secretly working with or against someone? And then the deeper thought, the one that hit me in the gut. What if she was trying to protect me? What if Brian wasn't the threat? What if I was never the target? The box sat there, open. The notebooks stared back at me, patient and cold. And I realized I wasn't asking the right question anymore. It wasn't, is she cheating? It was, what the hell is she trying to hide from me? I didn't go home right away. I sat in the car outside Red Lock Storage for almost an hour, watching the sun slide down the buildings like it wanted to disappear too. The USB drive was on the passenger seat, untouched, casting a small shadow that felt heavier than it should. I kept telling myself I didn't have to know. But I did. I drove to a hotel across town. Checked in under my middle name. Cash. No questions. The girl at the front desk smiled like she didn't see the storm behind my eyes. The room smelled like detergent and stale carpet. I sat on the edge of the bed, plugged the USB into my laptop, and waited. Only one folder. It was named House. Inside, videos. No labels. No timestamps. Just numbered files. 10 of them. I opened the first. It was grainy, black and white, like an indoor security camera. Our kitchen. At night. She's standing by the counter, back to the camera. I'm sitting at the table, scrolling my phone. We're not speaking. She makes tea, sets a mug down in front of me. I glance up, nod, say something I can't hear. We look like strangers. File 2, another angle. Our bedroom. She's crying. I'm not in the frame. Just her, curled on the edge of the bed, whispering into a phone. He doesn't see it. Not yet. But he will. And when he does, it won't matter. She hangs up, wipes her face, goes silent. Video after video. Each one smaller, meaner. Me snapping at her over a burnt dinner. Her staring at the mirror, not moving, for what feels like hours. Me slamming a drawer. Her deleting a message. Crying again. Then not crying at all. And the worst one, video 6, was audio only. A conversation. Muffled. But I knew the voices. Mine. Hers. Brian's. We're in the living room. I remember this night now. I'd had too much to drink. I was talking too much. Me. You think I don't know how this ends? I know exactly what you're doing. You want out. Just say it. Brian, Jacob, calm down. No one's trying to. Me. You're in my house. Drinking my whiskey. Acting like this is normal. Her voice. Jacob, please. Me. No. No. Don't. You think you're subtle? You think I don't see how he looks at you? You want him. Go. But don't insult me by lying. A pause. Then her voice again. Cold. You don't see anything. You never have. The recording cuts. I sat frozen in the hotel room, watching the screen. This wasn't surveillance. This wasn't about catching me. It was about remembering. She'd been documenting the decay, not planting evidence, preserving it. But why? The final file was a text document, a single line at the top. In case it comes to court, and underneath. Photos of bruises on her shoulder, screenshots of bank statements, transfers I didn't recognize, a spreadsheet, labeled control, names, dates, passwords, things I forgot I ever gave her, or maybe never did. I closed the file and stared at the wall. The breath in my lungs didn't feel like mine anymore. This wasn't about Brian. This wasn't about love. It was about leverage. She knew. Knew I'd check the footage. Knew I'd follow the key. Knew I'd look into the USB. She'd been 10 steps ahead since the beginning. And still she stayed. She played the wife. The confidant. She let me search, let me suspect, let me spiral. Because it was safer than letting me know what she already had on me. When I finally drove home, it was midnight. The apartment was quiet. Warm. Smelled like her lavender shampoo. She was in bed. Awake. I stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the hallway light. She didn't flinch. Jacob, she said softly. Where were you? I could ask you the same thing. I replied. My voice didn't sound like mine. She sat up, her face unreadable. You went to the unit, she said. Not a question. I nodded. She sighed, pulled the blanket tighter around her. So you know? No, I said. Not everything. Just enough. Silence stretched between us. The kind that doesn't fill, it subtracts. You were never going to leave me, I said. Were you? She shook her head. Not slowly. Not regretfully. No. I was going to wait until you did something I could use. That hit harder than any affair ever could have. I never hit you, I said. You raised your voice. Tracked my phone. Blocked my friends. You called it protection. You called it love. I stepped further into the room. She didn't move. You filmed me. I documented you, she corrected. For my safety. For my lawyer. So Brian was a decoy, she said. But eventually, he became more than that. She looked away. He saw the parts of me you couldn't reach. I sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking, so I folded them. You want me gone? She shook her head again. I want you to know I'm not afraid of you anymore. There was no yelling, no slammed doors. Just that. The slow, surgical severing of something I didn't realize had already died. And in that silence, I understood the real betrayal. Not that she lied to me, but that she learned how to lie because of me. She didn't ask me to leave. She didn't need to. By morning, the decision had already made itself. I packed quietly, deliberately. No rush, no performance. Just the slow sorting of a life into two piles. What was mine, and what had been pretending to be. She watched from the doorway, arms folded, a mug of coffee growing cold in her hands. There was no venom in her stare, no pleading either, just stillness, like someone waiting for a storm that already passed. I didn't look at her when I zipped the bag. I couldn't. The apartment felt too clean, too curated, like she'd been living for months in the future where I didn't exist. Everything hers was neatly arranged. Everything mine was already dust. Before I left, I set the USB on the kitchen counter, right beside the fruit bowl. I didn't say a word. She didn't ask. Outside, the city had the same indifference it always did. People walking fast, talking loud, horns, dogs, wind. None of it cared that something had ended 3 floors up. I stayed at a motel for a while. The kind with flickering hallway lights and vending machines that always swallowed your change. It suited the mood. Gray carpet, paper-thin walls, a view of the back lot and the dumpsters. I thought I'd feel more. Anger, relief, some sense of collapse. But all I felt was blank, like I'd stepped out of the story and into the space between chapters. No direction, no noise, just the quiet hum of what now? Eventually, her lawyer reached out. It was quick, brutal, professional. The documents had already been drawn up. A timeline, a breakdown of assets, terms, clean language that made it sound like no one had ever loved anyone. Just mutual disentanglement. There were lines in the agreement about non-disclosure, about privacy, about respecting personal archives. I signed them all. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to win. What would I even be fighting for? I got a new place. Bare walls. 2 chairs. A mattress. For a while, I didn't buy anything else. Didn't see the point. No pictures. No decorations. Just a box of essentials and a silence I didn't bother to fill. I started working later hours. Going in early. Avoiding the parts of the day that invited reflection. Nights were worst, when the noise stopped and all the absence echoed back. Sometimes I'd wonder if she ever looked for me. Not literally, not showing up, just opening her phone, hovering over old photos, wondering if I was as hollowed out as she'd hoped I'd be. I think she knew I wouldn't reach out, that I couldn't, because to speak to her now, to even say her name, would be to admit what I became. Not the man who was cheated on, but the man who created the space for it. A few months later, I passed Brian on the street. He didn't see me. Or if he did, he didn't react. Just walked by in that same worn cap, looking like the past had never touched him. He wasn't holding her hand. I don't know what that meant. I didn't care. I kept walking. The footage is still saved in my private drive. The intercom clips. The documents. Even the photo, the one with her smile and his wave and the cap that started everything. I don't watch them anymore. But I don't delete them either. Not out of nostalgia. Not out of spite. Just proof that something happened. That I wasn't crazy. That a life existed between four walls and two people and 100 tiny lies. And that I saw it for what it was before it vanished completely. Now when people ask why I don't date, why I seem closed off, I just smile. Say something vague. The truth is, once you learn how easy it is to mistake closeness for control, you start measuring every intimacy like a risk assessment. And the truth behind the truth. Sometimes betrayal doesn't break you. It confirms what you feared about yourself, that you were never really worth staying for. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.